Every power of Poseidon's Trident explained. DC Comics versus gaming reality. Picture Jason Momoa, massive, regal, rising out of the ocean with that golden trident in hand, commanding sea creatures, uniting kingdoms, king of the entire ocean. Cool, right? That's Aquaman. That's the hero version. Now picture Kratos in God of War 3. Same trident, different day. He wraps his hands around Poseidon himself and snaps his neck. The moment Poseidon dies, the ocean rises. Not dramatically, not heroically, but catastrophically. Every coastline floods. The world literally ends. That's the real Poseidon. Not a king, not a hero, a force. An ancient Greek explanation for why the ocean kills you, why the ground shakes, and why sometimes the world just decides to end. His trident wasn't a crown jewel. It was a weapon of mass destruction, and today we're breaking down every single power that weapon carries, from Greek mythology to DC Comics, and by the end, you'll never look at Aquaman the same way again. The forging, the ultimate weapon. Here's what DC Comics gets wrong, and kind of fixes later. In the movies, the trident is a family heirloom, a relic passed through Atlantean royalty. That's not even close to the real story. Later, Greek traditions credit the elder Cyclopes, the original divine craftsman, with forging the trident, just as they forged Zeus's thunderbolts. The trident was made of adamantine. The Greeks used words like adamus for something unconquerable or impossibly hard. This happened during the Titanomachy, the 10-year war between the Olympian gods and the Titans. The Cyclopes built these weapons to turn the tide. It worked. Poseidon got the sea, and the trident became the symbol of his absolute dominion over the oceans. DC Comics honors this in the comics by calling the metal the eighth metal, a substance from before creation itself. Different name, same idea. This thing cannot be stopped. But what can it actually do? Start with the power that made entire civilizations pray before they ever set foot near a beach. Power number 1, the Earthshaker. The ancient Greeks gave Poseidon a title that should send chills down your spine. Inosig Geos, or simply the Earthshaker, the god of the sea, and his scariest title isn't about water, it's about the ground beneath your feet. The ancient Greeks had no concept of tectonic plates. All they knew was that sometimes, without warning, the ground moves, buildings collapse, and people die. So they gave it a face. Poseidon's face. When Poseidon struck his trident against the seafloor or bedrock, the ground shook. The bigger the strike, the bigger the quake. This wasn't metaphor. It was literal fact to the people who lived it. In places vulnerable to quakes and the sea, Poseidon became the natural god to fear and appease. The trident was the ultimate symbol of both domains, the crushing sea above and the trembling earth below. In DC Comics, Aquaman can trigger seismic events powerful enough to crack continents. But in mythology, this was Poseidon's calling card, his way of reminding humanity who was in charge. But earthquakes happen underground. What about when Poseidon brought his fury directly to the surface? Power number 2, the Ocean Master. Another of Poseidon's core identities was simply Lord of the Sea, but that barely scratches the surface. To the ancient Greeks, Poseidon didn't just control the ocean, he was the ocean. When you looked out at the Mediterranean, you were looking at Poseidon's living body. When a wave crashed, that was him breathing. When he was angry, he didn't call a storm. He became one. Ancient texts describe waves so enormous they would swallow entire fleets. He flooded cities. He drowned armies. In the Odyssey, Poseidon hunted Odysseus across the entire Mediterranean for years, not with soldiers, but with weather. Endless storms, pure, personal, divine wrath wrapped in water. Here's what makes this power truly terrifying. It wasn't random. He targeted people. He held grudges. The ocean under Poseidon had intent. It had memory. In DC Comics, Aquaman's trident lets him part seas and summon tidal waves, but even that doesn't capture the full picture. The mythological trident didn't just control weather broadly, it could turn the sea into a personal weapon of favor or destruction. But why create disasters of water and earth when you could create actual monsters? Power number 3, the Beastmaker. The trident wasn't just a weapon of destruction, it was a tool of creation, specifically the creation of the most terrifying creatures in all of Greek mythology. Poseidon is the father of some of the most famous monsters in the ancient world. Start with Cetus, the massive Greek sea monster that movies eventually turned into today's pop culture kraken. When the Ethiopian queen Cassiopeia bragged that her daughter was more beautiful than the sea nymphs, Poseidon sent Cetus to obliterate the coastline. It took Perseus flying in with Medusa's severed head to stop it. Then there's Polyphemus, the Cyclops from the Odyssey who ate Odysseus's men one by one, son of Poseidon. When Odysseus blinded Polyphemus to escape, Polyphemus prayed to his father, and Poseidon answered. That's why Odysseus spent 10 years being hunted at sea. And then the Minotaur, the half-man, half-bull locked in the labyrinth of Crete. King Minos had promised to sacrifice a magnificent white bull to Poseidon, then broke the deal. Poseidon's revenge? He made Minos' own wife fall in love with the bull. The Minotaur was the result, a living punishment, a biological reminder of what happens when you cross the god of the sea. In DC Comics, Aquaman regularly battles the Trench, ancient deep-sea monsters that respond to the Trident. The writers understood the connection. The Trident has authority over things that live beyond the light. But Poseidon didn't only create sea monsters. His strangest creation had 4 legs, a mane, and changed human civilization forever. Power number 4. The Lord of Steeds. Here's the one that throws people off. Poseidon carries another title, Hippios, Lord of Horses. Yes, the god of the ocean is also the god of horses. Some myths credit Poseidon with creating the first horse, gathering the foam of the waves and shaping it into a living animal. But the metaphor goes deeper. Stand on a beach and watch the ocean. Watch the waves roll in, rise at the crest, and crash in white foam. The ancient Greeks saw that pattern and recognized horses, a charging cavalry, mane up, spending everything in a rush of white foam before retreating and doing it again. Ocean waves look like horses running. So Poseidon, god of waves, became god of horses too. His chariot was pulled by hippocampi, creatures that were half horse, half fish. His divine horses ran on the surface of the sea. In some ancient texts, the sound of hoofbeats and the sound of waves were considered the same sound, 2 expressions of one god. You've seen Poseidon's creative side. Now for the ugliest part, the side that wasn't powerful or majestic. It was petty, catastrophically, dangerously petty. Power number 5. The Weapon of Spite. Poseidon lost a contest once. He never got over it. The city of Athens needed a patron god. The gods held a competition. Whoever gave the best gift would be worshipped there forever. Poseidon went first, driving his trident into the Acropolis. Water burst from the stone, but it was salt water, undrinkable, useless. Then Athena touched the same rock and an olive tree grew. Olives meant food, oil, and trade. Athens chose Athena. Poseidon lost, and he was furious. This is where the trident became a weapon of spite. Losing to Athena didn't humble him. It ignited a rivalry he carried for centuries and took out on innocent people. That's the connection most people never make to Medusa. Most people know she was once a beautiful woman cursed into a monster, snakes for hair, a gaze that turns men to stone. Most are told Athena punished her, but they're never told why. Poseidon assaulted Medusa inside Athena's sacred temple. Some modern readers and scholars interpret this as more than random desire, as an intentional insult aimed at Athena's sacred space, a message. Your victory means nothing. Athena's rage fell on Medusa, which is a tragic story for another day. But the point here is Poseidon. He used his divine power not for protection, not for justice, but for revenge. The trident in his hand was the extension of a god who held scores, kept grudges, and never forgave. Which brings us to the real question. What does it mean to pick up that trident today? The legacy. Aquaman's true burden. When you watch Jason Momoa lift the trident in the DC films, it looks like triumph. The hero claims his birthright. The king rises. The ocean obeys. but now you know what that weapon actually is. Later tradition places its forging in the deepest, darkest reaches of the divine world. It's made of a substance that cannot be broken. It shook the earth before humans built cities. It drowned entire civilizations. It birthed some of the most unforgettable monsters in Greek myth. It was swung out of spite, used as an instrument of revenge against gods and mortals alike. To hold the trident of Poseidon is not to command fish. It is to hold the concentrated power of a god who was worshipped out of fear for thousands of years. Across the ancient Mediterranean, sea gods often carried the same basic fear: storms, shipwrecks, and the unpredictable power of water. Because the ocean doesn't care about you, earthquakes don't negotiate, storms don't make exceptions. Poseidon was humanity's way of putting a face on the things that kill without warning, and his trident was the ultimate symbol of that terror. So the next time Aquaman raises that weapon and the seas bow to him, remember, he's not just a superhero with a cool prop. He's carrying 5,000 years of human fear, wonder, and catastrophic mythology in his hands. Poseidon was never meant to be a hero. He was meant to be feared, respected, and never, ever crossed. And now you know exactly why. If you want more deep dives into the mythology behind your favorite comic book heroes, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss what's coming next.